ain't going back. Not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide. Gonna let all the fears slide. Got mother nature is on my side. Got all of the loving growing inside.
So here we sit alone, you and I, wondering on our life, wondering on infinity, wondering on where we go next, coming to an end and not knowing a new beginning. Meditating on what's possible from what has happened usually leaves you feeling hollow and wondering, how can I go somewhere new? What must I access inside myself to reach out and see for myself the new fruits that can be plucked from a tree that maybe has not yet grown, or perhaps it has grown but has not yet been found? I wonder on life when I sit here and I come to the end of what I've known and what must be new for me, and yet I have no idea what that means, where we are and where we're going, what can be made possible, even what my imagination can bring me beyond what my five so-called senses. I know there are more, probably at least five more. I can feel my guts. I can feel my imagination. I can feel eternity licking at the possibilities of the cage of the walls just beyond what can be grasped by my fingers, by my sight, by my heart. And I know there's more. I can tell. I've had dreams when I've been awake and when I've been asleep, when I've been tired, when I've dared to let the known slip away, afraid of what is behind all that I have accessed before in my past, because the unknown is the unknown and it can be scary because we're not sure what we're going to do when we get there, how we're going to act, how we're going to eat, how we're going to survive, who's going to love us, who's going to leave us, who's going to fear us, who's going to welcome us, all of those things. But when you notice that death walks by your side and there's a fine line between being here and there, and there always has been, and at any moment you can be there from being here. People talk about near-death experiences, but that's not a death experience. It's a near-death experience. And always when they come back, it seems there's a story written for them, a story of the white light or the blue light or the angels or their past talking to them. And it always seems known to me. Right? It always seems like it plays out as a story from a movie or it plays out as a story from someone else. And rarely have I come across someone who comes back and goes, I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, I've had my experiences with power plants. I've had my experiences with dreams. I've had my experiences with, almost dying several times. And I have to say, it's nothing like what I can share in words. It's nothing like what anybody has told me it is. For what I've seen, they always say it's more like you're still in your body or you're floating and you're still you. And then you still see your father or your mother or your angels or your gurus. And I got to say, that's probably nonsense. I think that's a reflection of the emotions and the choices and the beliefs that you've had that are flushing away. And just because you've never flushed your assertions or your certainties of life before, perhaps you're on one leg, so to speak. Perhaps you're not so centered at the time. I mean, who would be centered when they're almost dying, or who would be centered when they've had a near-death experience, whether it's from a heart attack or an accident or whatever might have brought it on at the time. And then you come back and you try and make sense in this world through your thoughts, let's say, or through your words, and you share that with someone else, and that could be seen as impossible. Right? It could be what I mean by the phantom work we've talked about, or getting beyond the self. It's like when you're beyond yourself, there is no you. There's only everything. And you're floating through potential. You're floating through awareness. You're floating through what comes next. And when you come back into this life and your perspective shrinks, it can seem scary that you have to, or you will one day, like all of us, reach out towards infinity and not know what's coming next. I mean, not know how you're going to be, who you're going to be, what you're going to be. Seems to me everything in this world that we've been taught as what we're supposed to do, whether it's have a family or have some savings, build a house, settle down, make something of your life. I don't know how many times I've been told, make something of your life and you'll be okay, is all flotsam on the seas of infinity. Everything goes, nothing lasts. What does stay the same could be you in the heart of yourself, could be the better part of yourself as you see yourself floating through the everything. And that wouldn't really care about relationships. It couldn't really care about physical possessions. It wouldn't know anything about the gathering of wealth as it's believed to be important these days: gold, digital coins, money, assets, whatever. I mean, you're when you have those dreams, as I've had those dreams, or when you do those power plants, as I've done those power plants, or even you're meditating, stone cold sober, and you have, something drops on you that takes you into a new way to be, a new way to see, which has happened to me many times. You're not thinking about what's in your pocket as far as, how fat your wallet is, or how big your purse is. You're not wondering about your interest payments or what your house is going to be worth, or if you should invest in this stock or the other stock or all these other nonsense, these corporations, that these corporate entities of dead things, or money, the one-eyed, devil that holds people hostage their whole life. You're going, oh my goodness, what's that? Oh my goodness, what's that? And how do I get there? And what's going on? And how can I move myself? And what are my energy levels like? If you're going up a mountain, you're not wondering about if the banks are open tomorrow, or what the return on your investment in fuzzy shoes is going to be. You're hoping you have enough power, enough energy, enough stamina to get to the top of the mountain. If you're thirsty and you need to find a river or a lake or a pool to drink from, you're hoping you have enough of the gumption to get up and go and keep moving until you get there, because you want to stay alive, you want to keep moving, you want to experience what comes next, over the next hill, over the next mountain. You want to smell the next flower, or see the next wonder. When the sun comes up in the morning, when you're at dawn, or when the sun goes down and there's twilight and you're looking at the stars, I do when I can, when it's not too fuzzy in the city, you're rarely, if ever, thinking about anything of a physical nature. And why is that? So what is beyond this place? What comes when we're not here? Maybe this is just a dream of a million dreams, of a billion dreams. You come into this body, you have a personality, or that you make, that you choose. Your parents help guide you, inform you, and chisel you into one way or another, because you kind of need a perspective to be alive here, or else you're out of your mind and you're kind of crazy. You kind of need to be able to focus to go through this life. But then, what is the shaper and the shaped? Who were you before you got here? How do you understand your energy, your potential? I've heard death is the great deceiver. We come into this dream, you wake in another dream. We've all had dreams at night. I've had plenty of dreams where I'm not me, where I'm kind of me and also not me. And they seem to go on for, if not full lifetimes, at least decades. Some of them go on for far longer than the, so-called 6 to 8 hours you sleep every night. You have experiences that seem to be jammed into you, or jammed into me, from such a short period of time in this dream. You sleep for 6 hours, let's say, and it seems I get decades of experiences sometimes. And I wake up and I remember them, not always, but when they're important dreams or when they're powerful dreams, I do recall them. And then I incorporate them into this life. I don't say that's just a dream. It doesn't mean anything, which is nonsense. And I don't try and interpret dreams like, my left toe hurts, so that means I'm worried about money, or my teeth came out, so that means I'm worried about feeding myself. It's more like, the dream is talking to me in ephemeral and powerful ways that give me feelings like, you're not really here, you're not really you, that personality is an illusion. When you are missing something, that's the most important thing, is to gather it, whatever it is. And it's not usually a monetary resource that you're missing. For me, it's always been, I'm missing some knowledge, some power, some way to decide what I need to do and how I need to do something. And so maybe the trick of this so-called cave, the trick of this so-called life, the trick of the so-called you, is that we're not living in our own dream. It seems to me, from the nonsense that gets passed along from parents and TVs and cell phones and media, etc., is coming from somewhere nefarious. It has a source. It has an evil source, a source of death. Everything in this world is built on that. If you take everything down to its source, it's always a fear of death, whether it's a medical intervention, whether it's, save some money so you can eat the next day, buy a house so you don't freeze to death, pay your taxes so that you have a retirement fund so that when you get older, you're not going to die lonely in the streets alone. People are worried when they get older, they need children to look after them, or they need a home, or they need a government, or they need something. And if you take anything and everything and all of those things to their bottom, the bottom is you're afraid to die, right? The bottom is you're afraid you'll be left alone. I mean, what's the worst is you die, right? You're left alone in the streets. You don't have any food. You don't have any housing if you live in a cold country, or shelter. You don't have anyone to help you if you need help. All of those things. Why do people put savings away? Why do people want to save for a rainy day? What is this rainy day they're saving for? Nobody talks about it, but everyone is afraid of being dead, in my experience. Now, if you look at that and you see beyond that, and you have your dreams, you might get a feeling, as I have, that death is the deceiver, a deceiver. It is the trickster, and it is a dream we're living in. I mean, most of us have to kill something to eat. If you're a vegetarian, you kill a plant. If you're a fruitarian or frugarian, or you just eat fruits and that's good for you, maybe you're closer to something where you don't have to kill to survive. I haven't seen or come across too many people that happily exist that way. I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there's some vegetarians that get along just fine. I haven't seen any that look healthy and strong, though. Don't get me wrong. I know elephants just eat and they're fine, but maybe as humans there's something different in that if we are conscious in ways that it seems a lot of the other life here is not. And I'm not saying we're at the top of anything at all, because I personally think we're so conscious. We've been tricked into being conscious at the bottom of the food chain, not the top. I think we're at the very, very, very bottom. Just because you can kill something doesn't make you the top of anything. Because if you can beat up a little child, you shouldn't. And if you can lord it over someone, you shouldn't. If you can take advantage of someone, you shouldn't. So I would say if you can kill something and eat it, probably you shouldn't. But it seems in this dream, almost you have no choice if you want to continue in this dream, but to be a priest, or to be an avatar of death, because you get born here and then you have to eat or you die. So death basically tells you, or whispers in your ear, it's time for food. If you go too long, you'll be dead. It's time for this. If you go too long, you'll be dead. If you don't drink, you'll be dead. If you don't get warm, you'll be dead. Let's be honest here, you and I and everyone else that may be listening to this, if you don't do, fill in your own reasons for what you're afraid of, is being dead. And if you don't get your medical insurance, if you don't go see a doctor, if you don't save, if you don't work, if you don't, have a house, etc., 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 you're afraid of being dead. So right away into this world, that is the pathways that they beat you with, right? Get some savings so you'll be okay. Be healthy so you live longer. Don't forget to do this. You have to listen to, this government or this association, or the police will come and put you in jail, and then you'll have a bad life, right? And you'll be near dead, or you'll be inexperienced in the ways that you want to be. Your freedom will be gone, etc., etc. So I would say if you sit down and you consider the bottom in all of this, the bottom in what you may be looking for, the bottom in what I may be looking for, is a dream, a life beyond this one. Perhaps we're born into a dream that's not ours. Perhaps we can move ourselves into another dream. Perhaps the door out is something that can't be given to you. It's something that can't be offered. It's something you have to figure out for yourself. You figured your way here. Again, I don't care what anyone says. If you're born, probably you asked to come. Probably you asked for your parents. Probably you asked for your circumstances so that you can see something I've heard that needs to be fixed. Maybe we're all born with something, fear, a bend, a misapprehension of life, something. Our parents always pass something along to us that's not so nice. I haven't come across anyone that hasn't had their parents pass along some sort of fear, some sort of bend in reality, some sort of distortion that needs to be made clear. So maybe it's the effort of making those distortions clear that allows you to get out of here. Right. So, if you get a fear of money or a fear of religion or a fear of, whatever your father or mother or your siblings passed along to you, and you fix that, that's the effort of getting clear. If you haven't had a shower in a few days and you have a shower, oh, it feels great, right? Or if you haven't gone to the washroom and you've really had to, and then you go, oh, it feels great. Or if you haven't eaten for 3 or 4 days, you fasted and you eat, oh, it feels great. So if anybody's looking for the purpose of life, I would say the purpose is the anti-purpose, and seeing that if you're missing something and then you get it back, you appreciate it more. And you appreciate that shower. You appreciate the piece of fruit. You appreciate the glass of water when something is missing from your life. And so maybe we come from the unknown, we come from infinity back to this life that's known without infinite possibilities, to go back with the experience of gratitude, to go back with the experience of figuring it out for ourselves, to go back with the experience of taking something that maybe wasn't in existence by earning. And people don't like that, but I really feel you earn the right to your infinity, and then you move along, and there's something that feels respectful about that, right? There's something that feels rich about that. There's something that feels potential beyond about that can only be earned through the efforts of it not being there, so that you can pick yourself up by your own bootstraps, as they say, grow your own metal, decide for yourself. I mean, I love, in the best of times, being who I am, my predilection. I'm a humorful guy. I try not to be so full of myself, although I am. I try not to be mean, although it happens. I try not to get angry, although I do. Like all of these things. But when I'm sitting in the best of myself and I'm laughing and I'm noticing the humor in all of this, you get a real feeling of, maybe that's the separation when you get to be an individual, even though you're a part of everything. So you get to experience your predilection, whatever that is for you, and to make it real, whether it's a song or a dance or a hug or a notion, or the love you get to feel, or the relationships you have, children if you have them, siblings if you love them, etc. Your parents, to be the gratitude for the sacrifices they've made. It gives you a chance to gather these ephemeral yet rich experiences, to put them in your pocket and to keep moving, right? Not to build a house and fill it with garbage, not to grab into a woman or a man or a relationship and hold on to it because you need them, not to hope your children are going to look after you when you get old and decrepit, although, why not? It might still happen. Not to do any of those things, not to have some savings so you can sit there getting slowly older and slowly weaker and slowly sicker, and then eventually you're happy you're leaving because, you don't have any power to enjoy life. I would say it's more like you gather these experiences, you put them in your pocket, you get to see the wonder of being alive, you get to, be that bright star, you get to be that bright being, you get to share with others, you get to laugh, you get that feeling of uplifting yourself. And, maybe that's what you put into your body. That's maybe what you put into your pockets. It's maybe what you put into your inventory of experiences, and just take it with you. Who knows what's next? If I get to move along and I get to be the loving being I feel I can be, and I get to go through the barriers of this death and see what's beyond, and share with my brothers and sisters, or whatever you want to call them, beyond that point, and we get to laugh and laugh and laugh our way into infinity, and see the joke of having realized that death isn't real, but we had that experience so that we can become more than we thought we were. Well, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that everything? And isn't that all we really need? All right. I'm Lorenzo. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll be back with another one. I'm doing the phantom work. So, the phantom of imagination, the phantom of seeing beyond, the phantom of phantoms of seeing through, and what could come next. And I love you all very much. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you all again very soon.
Can't make me lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom